Hey everybody, it's Catherine. Today I wanted to do a little video about something that I've seen being discussed online, and it involves feminism, and it involves how we women and those of us who are cultivating our feminine energy are allowing that energy to manifest into society as we interact with the world. So it sort of triggered this thought process for me was a post I read of a friend who I ended up connected with on Facebook. And this woman was at a gas station late at night and had been out with her friends and was apparently catcalled in the parking lot by a guy. And I was very surprised by her response. It was something involving a dick being shoved through his teeth. I'm like, wow, okay. So I keep reading the story thinking like, gosh, feels extreme to me, but okay, I'm going to keep reading. And she goes inside and his friend's in there, and apparently he says something to her. And she went off on him to the point where she said he was hanging his head in shame. And I don't know, I started having feelings about this. I actually wrote down what she said to him, or what she reported that she said to him, which is, you are sexualizing me to be just that. You were reducing me to just that. I am not just that. I'm a million times that. Okay, so this was her response to the guy in the gas station. I mean, there was some stuff that was a little bit more intense, but that line right there really stood out to me because I thought, well, one, we are sexual creatures, right? That's what we are. That's how we create new life. That is just a part of us. And a catcall isn't saying I only see you as sex. And really, sex is like the most divine thing on the planet. And so it got me thinking, what is so wrong with a catcall? Is there something wrong with it? It's a sign of bravery by the man who's likely to be rejected. I mean, really, how many guys catcall with the expectation that something's going to actually happen? It's brave, because you might get responded to like these guys did, right? And it's human. It's like a signal of their humanity. And I don't know. I'm surprised by angry responses to that. Now, I'm not saying it's okay to touch people when they don't want to be touched, or to continue advancing on somebody once they've drawn a boundary, right? But my surprise lies in the response to that. Okay? So if we are concerned about this kind of toxic masculine energy that I guess I've kind of grown up understanding my whole life, right? Men are the problem, they're violent, they're whatever. And I think our culture sort of supports those ideas. I don't know. Maybe you grew up differently with different mindset. I'm not saying this came from my parents necessarily, but it was just sort of a cultural thing, right? That like men are the problem. And I don't know that that's true. I think that the problem comes when there's an imbalance, and this is something my friend Logan has been talking to me about the past week. When there's an imbalance between feminine and masculine energy, then yeah, there's a problem, and that could be within you, or that could be in a relationship, or in society at large, right? So problem comes when there's imbalance. And what I was reading when I read her story of these men catcalling was a manifestation of a pretty toxic energy that erupted in response, right? That's what I saw. It was angry, it was vitriolic, it was, like making threats of physical violence with shoving, yeah. So I'm reading that, and I was feeling a little triggered. It made my heart kind of boom, boom, boom. In fact, I unfollowed this person because I've noticed this person kind of going on these big upset rants that I think I'm triggered by because I can relate to them. Because I used to carry that toxic energy in me. And there's an example I can think of that was surprising to John in a gas station when I responded with that sort of upset in either late 2009 or early 2010. And it was even more ridiculous because it was over a cashier insisting I show my ID when I use my card. And I was really tired. We were doing this activist stuff. Anyway, I snapped at a cashier. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Yeah, I snapped. I unloaded. And yeah, so that I think that's why reading this story really triggered me, because she unloaded on a guy in the parking lot. She unloaded on a guy in the gas station. And as I started thinking more and more about this, I realized, okay, I am just like that. So if we want to create a balance in this world, projecting the problem onto men is not going to do that, right? So this example, this woman felt that it was inappropriate for this guy to make a comment to her, okay? Which may have been true. Maybe it wasn't appropriate. I'm down for, I feel that. That could be true. But was her response appropriate to respond with such anger and vitriol? My personal opinion is that it displayed an imbalance, right? An energetic imbalance. I was catcalled recently at a gas station in Louisiana. And it made me feel really good. It gave me energy. It fueled me up. And I walked into the bathroom like, yeah, I just got catcalled in a parking lot. And I thought it was funny and sweet. And when I walked out, the guy and his friend were sitting by their car, and he's like, hey, don't walk by, don't walk by. And he like reached out. And I could feel the lightheartedness of it. And I could feel just the authenticity behind it. He wasn't being creepy. He wasn't, like touching me inappropriately or following me. It was sweet. And I laughed, and I stood and talked to him for a couple minutes. Okay? I talked to a guy catcalling me and laughed with him. And, he had just fled the hurricane in Houston. And can you imagine, having to flee and leave everything behind? What if I had been a total bitch to him? But instead, I got to stand there and laugh and have a really good conversation. And would you believe, he was so brave. He came running up to my passenger door before we pulled out and gave me his phone number. And John was driving the car. John and I had already split up. John was like, it's okay. We're divorced. But it was just so brave of him. And to me, I thought it was beautiful. I really did. I don't know how I would have responded in 2010. Maybe I would have responded like that girl. And, there's something in that energy, which I think is probably a toxic masculine energy. I don't know. I'm still learning about the feminine masculine balance energetically in the left and the right brain. Thank you, Logan. It's a lot for me to learn. But what I was realizing today when I was doing yoga and thinking about this, because it's been, for whatever reason, on my mind since last night, I was thinking about how activism sort of required that of me, right? To be a good activist, at least in hindsight. Maybe I'll rephrase this differently. Activism didn't require me to have this like strong toxic masculine energy, but having that made me a better activist in some ways, okay? What I thought was a better activist. It sort of propelled me on my activist career. It gave me this energy and fueled me. And I was nasty to cops and whoever, McCain supporters, I don't know, during the Ron Paul time, There was just this really like contentious energy that I carried with me in 2008, 2009, 2010. And that started to sort of subside when I got pregnant. it was my choice to really start working on that and start calming down and finding center and realigning myself. And I think there's a lot of that toxic energy in the liberty movement. And the truth is, I am having a really hard time relating with the liberty movement right now. Most of my interactions with the liberty movement are online. I do go to conferences and festivals and things, but most of them are online. And I don't want to read any of it. I don't want to hear any of it. I'm blocking people from my feed, unfollowing, unfriending, just doing this purge. And I'm wondering, because I believe in the principles of liberty and freedom and, like philosophical anarchy, voluntarism, but I don't relate to that toxic energy. Not anymore. And so I guess it has me wondering, is there a role for me in the liberty movement anymore? Do I belong somewhere else? Or do I have an opportunity, possibly maybe, to help people see that anger and that vitriol inside themselves so that maybe we could start shifting the culture and the dynamic of the liberty movement? I don't really have the energy to try and change anybody or anything. And if you want to be angry, that's fine. But I'll tell you, it made me sick. It made me so sick. Spiritually sick. Physically sick. Emotionally sick. Carrying that energy and that blame and that victim mentality. That guy's the problem for catcalling me, so I'm going to attack him. That is a very, victim blame. I feel like a truly empowered and enlightened woman could take a catcall with some grace, right? And could move through that without becoming the type of person that they don't want to be. So how can we be our best selves all the time? Even when we're faced with something we disagree with. She obviously disagreed with this catcalling. But imagine if she had said, excuse me, I feel a little offended by that. What if she had been polite? Or what if she had just said thank you and walked inside and expressed gratitude for the fact that she is a divine sexual being? And that is part of us. That's part of our humanity. I don't know. I guess there's different ways of handling things, and I'm learning a new one. I haven't perfected it. I was triggered by this girl's post. I felt it. It was in me. She was mirroring me to me, and it blew my mind. I've been thinking about it for 12 hours. Really, truly. Anyway, thanks for having this conversation with me. What are your thoughts?